I'm not gonna lie, so we might as well address it right off the jump. Pretty much all the news this week is Switch 2 related, and it's kind of a mess. It's Sunday, so let's get sensational. I'm Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. But you know what's kinda gone, but possibly coming back? Tariffs, everyone's favorite topic this year. So last week we talked about Nintendo delaying the pre-orders for Switch 2 due to the looming tariffs, but the tariffs have now been paused for 90 days. Now, Nintendo hasn't set a new date just yet for when the pre-orders will go live. As far as Nintendo Direct, they're doing an invitation system, and pre-orders through them are scheduled to go out on May 8th, which was already in place before the delay. So yeah, it's just the retail pre-orders that we're waiting on, but there's still no date for them. Now, those of you not familiar with what's going on in America, it might be confusing with the whole tariff on, tariff off thing, but the easiest way to remember is if you flip a light switch in your house, there's a 50% chance the status of the tariffs have changed. I hope this helps to simplify everything. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, so while the tariffs were turning off and on or whatever they're doing currently, Nintendo decided to delay pre-orders in Canada as well. So yeah, we're basically just tanking everything in North America when it comes to pre-orders and a bunch of other stuff that I'm not getting into because this isn't that kind of video. But anyway, the tariffs, sorry, I was seeing if they were still on or not. But the tariffs aren't only affecting potential Switch 2 customers, they're also affecting Nintendo directly as well. So we know there was a delay with the pre-orders, but nothing came out about the pricing for the console changing. But while the big worldwide tariff increase has paused for 90 days, there was still an increase in the rates. Imports from China have gone to 125% tariff rate, and it's 10% everywhere else. So as a result, it's rumored that Nintendo is trying to produce as many of their consoles in Vietnam as possible for the US market, but that will still result in a 10% tariff rate, and it's currently estimated that the bill of materials, aka how much Nintendo is paying to make the systems, is around $400. So with the 10% tariff rate, it's estimated that Nintendo may be taking a loss for each console sold in the US, even with the current tariff rate. It was also pointed out in the Engadget article that the majority of PS5s are manufactured in China, so US may finally see a price increase on PS5 as well. It already increased in a lot of other markets a few years ago, so I could see it now finally going up in the US. Now, traditionally, PlayStation and Xbox, they usually lose money on the hardware initially to get the console out the door, and then they hope they'll make it up in software later, and then obviously as prices decrease for the components, they end up making money on the hardware too. Now, Nintendo, they usually make money off the hardware and the software right off the bat, so this could be one of the rare times where they end up selling the console at a loss. But while they may have to sell the hardware at a loss, that's certainly not the case for the software, and that's what we're talking about today. And our final story. So we got a couple more stories to cover about the Switch 2, but the biggest one that people are pointing out is the price of some of the Switch 2 edition games, specifically Breath of the Wild. So we knew that Breath of the Wild will be getting a $10 upgrade if you already own it for the Switch 2 edition, or the upgrade will be included if you have Switch Online plus the expansion pass. However, if you buy the Switch 2 edition brand new, it's going to be $70 for just the base game, which doesn't include the DLC. It's an extra $20 for the DLC. So basically they're charging $90 for the full edition of the game with the DLC, which I get that they did some work on it, but ultimately it's an 8-year-old game that they're trying to charge $90 for. Now, I gave my opinion on the price of the console, and I think for what they're offering for the price, it makes sense. But some of the games, like them charging $10 for the console demo, that doesn't make as much sense. But one good thing that Nintendo confirmed about their Switch 2 games is game cards with digital installs will not be tied to Nintendo accounts. So I covered the story last week about how Nintendo is handling games that don't fit on the game cards. Well, they'll basically be downloads that require the game card to be inserted to play. Well, Nintendo has confirmed that it will not be linked to an account, which is great for people who want to buy these physical games and then sell them later on, or even let someone borrow them. Now, another thing we talked about last week was some Switch 1 games having compatibility issues on the Switch 2 after Nintendo put out a list of games with issues. Well, Nintendo spoke to GameSpot about these issues, and they said that they're actively working with the developers to try to get these issues resolved as soon as possible. Like I said last week, I'm hoping that these are minor issues and that we don't see as much of it as end users once the system actually comes out. And that's going to do it today because I'm all out of Nintendo news. It looks like the tariff status hasn't changed as of yet. But let me know what you think in the comments about Nintendo's current pricing situation. Do you think they're charging too much for some of their releases? Again, let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button thing to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time.